So just the other day I was tidying up my room. Sorting out wires. And resticking posters. And for once I had all my controllers on the desk. Looking back on the long history of gaming controllers, it's kind of sad how identical they all are now, with 2 sticks, 4 shoulder buttons, and 4 face buttons. Hold up, these face buttons are pretty weird. Sony seemed to have theirs based on an alien starship from a film, while Nintendo and Microsoft seem to not be able to agree on the order the alphabet goes in. What is this? How did we get here? So I did what any normal person would do when faced with a relatively trivial question. A 2 to 3 day research dive, and actually by the time of recording it's been even longer. And by the time I get to the end of editing, even longer still. I just keep jumping back into this topic. Anyway, let's get started, shall we? Chapter 1. What came first? The ag or the bicker? Who wrote this? Sean, did you write this? This is kind of your writing. Hop in the time machine, gang. It's rewind time. In the same year Star Wars came to cinemas, there was a new hope in gaming, the first home console featuring lettered buttons. The first generation had already been underway for 4 years now, and there had been a whole lot of wacky controllers until then. Like, what is this? Or this? But like Indiana Jones, by searching through these ancient artifacts, we can reach the first item of interest. The Nintendo Color TV. But, not that one. Or that one. Or that one. Oh, that's the one. That's the one we're talking about. The very helpfully named computer TV game is where we need to look. The last of the family of consoles, it played Othello, the play by that Shakespeare guy, and as a result needed 4 buttons labelled D, C, B and A to select computer AI. Okay, but these don't look anything like modern controllers. Like, what is a C and a D doing there? Well, ignoring the fact the C button was around up until the era of the Wii, it does establish 2 things. The original order is the lowest letter to the highest letter? That's not how letters work. And also that Nintendo was first. Okay, well, that sounds pretty reasonable to me, but then how do we end up with most controllers, like the PlayStation and Xbox ones, and also loads of other ones, like the Steam Deck, with its letters the other way around? To my surprise, the face button remains absent on the strangely shaped controllers of the second generation, and it isn't until Nintendo's return with the classic Nintendo Entertainment System that we see face buttons really take off. But that leaves just one question. Chapter 2. Sony, why did you do this to me? From the makers of the most marketable character in human history, we first get started with our good old friends at Sega with their definitely not NES controller that was the Master System. Now, it's a well-known part of the gamer mythos that the reason for the button switch was to avoid patent infringement on the Nintendo design. And given Nintendo's current army of ninjas trained to pounce on even the slightest chance of copyright infringement, it does seem likely. But I can't find any evidence of this at all, and I am 100% confident that nobody in the comments to this video will have found something that I couldn't. Please? Now, with Sega's more recent reputation, it's hard to remember just how big the Sega Genesis was as a rival to the Super Nintendo. Sega held a large presence in the Western market, and while not quite beating Nintendo, it did change the shape of gaming forever. And, in my opinion, causing the dawn of the modern image of a hardcore or serious gamer.
Gotta go. Hey guy, you're the first serious gamer I've seen all morning.
So, say you were targeting the American demographic. You might want to pick up on some of these ideas, or possibly even use the same button layout so it would be easier for them to go from one console to another. Just a thought. But now I think about it, I should probably get around to answering that question I posed at the beginning of this chapter. Sony, what do you think about all this? It's sometime in the early 90s, and Ken Kutagiri is hard at work creating the system that would go on to be the PlayStation. When you think about it, like I have been for the last few weeks, it's kind of strange that we use the Latin alphabet on our face buttons, especially given its origins in Japan. And it seems the team at PlayStation agreed with their decision to move to face buttons that uses traditional symbols of Japan. That, and also it's actually turned out to be a really good marketing gimmick for them, so that's paid off twice. As we're only talking about the A and B button, we can ignore the classic square and triangle and focus only on the circle and cross. It's basically yes and no. Maru, which is the circle, is yes, and Bashu, which is the X, is no. And I've probably mispronounced those, and you're gonna have to deal with it. But it does seem some Western game developers didn't get the memo.
This. It may look like a harmless bagel toaster, but inside is a deadly donut.
As a result of this, the PlayStation ended up in this really weird situation where sometimes the X was used to select and other times it was used to close, depending on if the game had been made in Japan or the US. This would continue all the way up to the PlayStation 5, where Sony finally decided to make one official version. And they chose? You now press X to select things on every single console. Why did you choose the wrong one? Why? But back to those early days of gaming. As 1 becomes 2, the PlayStation 2 did pretty well. And it was once again time for a new player to the field to steal ideas from the lead. Chapter 3. Microsoft at the conclusion of gaming. Wait a minute, am I blaming Microsoft for the end of gaming? Microsoft would take their cues from Sony in America, bringing back the lettered buttons for the home audience. And with the rise of PC gaming, the Xbox controller would go on to be the basic bitch of the gaming peripherals. So much so that even the ever-greated controller designers at Nintendo, often happy to take risks like having one less shoulder button, to adopt a controller so basic that the only unique quality it has is the reversed face buttons. And with that, we end up back at my desk. The 3 controllers all lined up. Man, they really needed a clean. I hope you've enjoyed this dive into the history of gaming. If you ever do decide to rewatch this video, I recommend a really fun game where you go through and notice how much my hair grows as the week's gone on, and also how many times I change costume. If you've enjoyed this video and made it all the way to the end, please consider giving it a like, subscribing to all those things that YouTube likes you to do, and I hope to see you in a video very soon. Have a good one, everyone. Sony, why did you do this to me?